Welcome to episode 16 of Creativity from Within podcast. I am Roxanne Catherine, host. Today's guest is Dr. Carmen Hutchinson Miller, who is a historian and independent researcher. Her research is focused on recovering Afro Costa Rican descendants of the late 19th century Caribbean emigrants. Enjoy the conversation. Hi, Dr. Miller. Welcome to episode 16 of the podcast. How are you?
I am fine. Glad to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
And thanks for taking the time to be here. Before we get into it, can you give me a little bit of your background, like where you studied, what you did up to this present moment?
Okay, yes. I am a Costa Rican. I was born in the Port of Limon, which is the area where you find most of Afro-Caribbean descendants. And then later on in life, I moved to the capital because during that time when I was developing myself academically, we did not have a university. So we had to go to the capital, which is San Jose. So during that, as we say, story, then I got an opportunity to go to Barbados on an internship. So I was there on an internship for I think 2 or 3 years. Then I returned to Costa Rica and I completed, some people call me a professional student. So I came back to Costa Rica, did a master's in research and education, then fall in love with some Barbadian, went back to Barbados. And then that time, no, that one was the longest period. So
Yeah.
in total, I was living in Barbados for 20 years. And during that period, I did a master's and the PhD in history.
Okay.
And then I returned to Costa Rica in 2014, and I'm home since then.
Oh, wow. So when you did so you have 2 master's degrees?
Yes.
Oh, congrats. That's amazing. The first one you did in Costa Rica.
Yes.
And then, so once you finished your master's and your PhD in Barbados, did you work there for a while, or did you just complete? You did. What did you do there?
Yes, I used to work at the center. I think it is called the Institute for Gender and Development Studies, known Nita Barrow Unit. I worked there for a good while before. I was working there before I left to come back home. So yes, there is where I was working as a research assistant, but I also used to do part-time teaching. I taught courses on gender studies. So yes, I was very busy.
That's nice. So
Easy living.
that's amazing. So what inspired you to come back, to reconnect with your roots? What inspired that?
Well, personal issues more than anything else. I am a mother, and during that period, I was mostly working for my son. My son was still in Costa Rica. Well, he's still in Costa Rica. So I was working and studying. You know, it is how we multitask as women. And then it reach a point in your life too where it's time to go home. It's time to go back home. And there was some little issues that were taking place, and I'm like, let me just go back to my country. So it was mostly a personal situation why I returned.
Oh, okay. And what have you, so do you still work, or have you retired, or what do you do now?
When I return home, since I am an academic, I started to work I look for jobs. First, I was getting, because after 20 years, you're almost a stranger in your own country. So therefore, I went, I started to work at some primary and secondary schools, but
Okay.
boy, that wasn't for me at all. And then I got a job at two of the main universities in Costa Rica, the public universities, La Universidad de Costa Rica and La Universidad Nacional. But I worked at the Universidad Nacional for like around 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 2 years, I am doing my own thing. Because I am now 65, so I am on retirement age,
Right.
but I'm still working on my own. Because since I was out of the country for so long, I did not have the sufficient contributions.
Oh,
So
okay.
I am just really now putting the papers to get a pension because I am 65.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you know, the title of this podcast or this conversation, a part of it, is reconnecting with wonder, seeing the world through your own creative lens. So how was that transition for you, reconnecting not just with the people, but mostly with who you are as a person and what you like to do and what you're doing now? Was that an easy transition, or
I don't think it was difficult. I think when we talk about
yeah?
reconnecting with wonders and stuff like that, when I was younger, and
Mm-hmm.
you're growing up and you dream stuff,
Yes.
one of the things that I used to dream about was to travel. I wanted to travel a lot. I wanted to know different places. So when the opportunity came up for me to emigrate to Barbados, it was like in the continuum of those things that I was dreaming
Mm-hmm.
about. Of course, how life is not like straightforward.
Right.
It's not that I was planning that, oh, is Barbados is the place
No,
where
it
I would
just,
go.
yeah.
But it just happened like that. But because I had that mindset that I wanted to travel and stuff like that, it just was like it was easy in that aspect. It was not that easy as a mother because I had to leave my son. So that was, it was
Mm-hmm.
very painful, especially for the first year. But then he would come and he loved to come to the Caribbean because we over this side, we love the Caribbean. So it was nice for him. So it was an experience for him as a young child growing up, and that he could come vacation in Barbados. So he would stay 3 months. Then he could come back to Costa Rica and tell his friends all what he knows and stuff. So in that aspect, it worked out well for us because
Mm-hmm.
it was a wonderful experience for him also. So in that aspect, I think it worked out for the both of us.
That's wonderful. And what do you like doing for fun? What do you do now? Like,
Well, now, my sister, this is my time. This is my time to do what I want.
right.
So because I'm a historian and you develop the skills to research and stuff like that. I love doing research, but I do it in my time and my time. So I just finished. Look, I am so crazy about this research that I just published a research that I was doing about our ancestors, the Caribbean people who came to Costa Rica and got married in the late 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the things that I do to enjoy myself. And beside that is just like enjoying life now. I have my son is like 40 years old now. So we have is a different type of relationship. So
Right.
we bond by going out and eat, and it's just enjoyed. When you was a teenager and you didn't realize how difficult life was,
Mm-hmm.
um, that is the period of my life that I'm into, like those teenagers where you go out to have dinner with friends, you go out with the
Mm-hmm.
family. So there is where I am right now.
That's nice. And in terms of research, let's say there's someone looking on and they kind of want to get into somebody that came, let's say, to the United States, for example, but I'm
Mhm.
just calling things out here, but they're
Yeah, yeah.
originally from Jamaica, and they're looking
Uh-huh.
at this, and they actually have a background similar to yours, and they want to do more research and probably publish something about their roots and even want to go back home. What simple advice can you give to somebody watching who would want to make the same sort of transition you did? What are the easy steps that they could use?
Well, I think it's going to depend on their circumstance because it was not easy to return home.
Right,
Uh, the desire was there, but it was not easy to reestablish yourself.
right.
So you have to have that in mind. Because as I said previously, you are a stranger in your country, depending on the amount of time that
That
you
you,
was
yeah,
living, yeah, that you left the country. And you must have your objective very, very, very clear because in that transition, in that process of reestablishing yourself, probably you can really focus on the main objective that you had because you have to go and create new support system. If you're still working, you need to find a job. All these things take up a lot of your time because it took me like probably 5 years to like settle back myself in my own country. So you have to have that in mind. And of course, it would help a lot if you have your family support because well, I coming back home, so I have my family there. But yes, it wasn't that easy in that in, in that sense because you have to the friends that you left you outgrow them sometimes or they outgrow you depending on the circumstance. So you're not coming back to that core friendship any longer. So that you have to have in mind also. So is like another version, like the next chapter of your life. So
yeah.
you have to start all over again because I had to start all over again. But I was excited to do it, and no regrets, no regrets.
That's nice, and it all comes back to self, and to not looking on the outside, but looking more on the inside for whatever you do in life, starting over, transitioning, whatever you do. You know, it makes sense to accept the fact, like you said, that friends that you had years ago, 20 years ago, you can't move forward thinking that they're still your friends. You have to basically start from scratch, you know. Has
See.
there been anything in your childhood growing up in Costa Rica that you were passionate about that you're kind of exploring now in retirement?
When I was growing up, I was always like the odd one out. My mother used to say that, oh, you cannot tell Carmen anything because she's own way. But what it was is not that I was own ways because I was very critical of stuff like the convention. I was critical of the convention. So everybody doing the same thing, everybody agree, but when you do something a little different, and it wasn't nothing negative, it's like, why you have to be so different? They used to tell me you are too rebellious. But as you grew up and you learn and you get exposure, to because I began my feminist activism very young. So those were the things that draw my attention. But for my other friends who like, oh, fantasizing about all these things that they paint for us, they could not understand why I was so different. Right. So what I like now at this stage of my life, after you go through all these life experiences, because you do what everybody tell you, you're married, you have
True.
children, you study, you go to university, you
Yeah.
do all those things. So you said, no, I am doing the things that I'm just happy that the universe give me the opportunity to reach to this point in my life where I'm just content with myself. I do not care what they think
Mhm.
about me in terms of you too radical, because right now I know you're not asking me this, but I'm a single woman. So for a lot of people, that is an issue.
Mhm.
Because, oh, how come are you gonna live? And I live on my own. I have like decades living on my own. And so I'm like, do I look like I'm sad? Do I look like I'm suffering? So why are you worried that I don't have a partner? That really don't define my life. I am happy because I'm free to do what I want. And it's a choice. It's a choice that I make. Not to have it. I was married twice, it did not work. So you get the you get the message, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean. But it is not a problem for me. So at this stage of my life, I am free to make the decisions that I want,
Mhm.
those social norms that they want you to fit into, and I really don't care. Because when I hit 50,
Mhm.
it's like the don't care years. I don't care, because you have one has experienced so many things that know the actions that you take was informed by the experiences you had before. So I am not following nobody's life. I am following the things that make me feel fulfilled as a human being and as a Black woman in Costa Rica now.
And I think, to segue off of what you said, that's very important for us to realize as we get older that society tends to make a lot of women in particular feel that, it's something is wrong with you if you're by yourself or if you, and that's not true. It's to thine own self be true, and peace is important, and it's also important to do what you want to do in your life. And I think for any older woman like us in their 60s looking now and wondering, oh my gosh, I need my children's approval, or no, you don't. You just need to tap into your own resources and figure out what you need to do with your life and take baby steps. And as a librarian, I always tell people, go to the library, because libraries are not just about taking a book off the shelf. There are programs, there are people you could talk to, there are a lot of things you could do. So start by going to the local library, get books on your topic, speak to people about what programs they have, and do it. Because life is way too short to
True that, true
follow the
that.
status quo, and you have to do what you need to do. And you mentioned being a Black woman in Costa Rica. Um, you speak Spanish fluently, correct?
Yes, yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's
That's
nice.
our language. That is the official language, Spanish.
And what are the small beautiful details you notice about where you are? Because I don't know much about your country, but now I'm
Well,
curious.
my country is very popular right now in terms of tourism. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of tourists here now. It is a beautiful country. We are in Central America. When I was in Barbados, it used to be very funny to me because whenever they would ask me where you're from because of my
Mm-hmm.
accent, they would hear the accent. And I would say I'm from Costa Rica. They would say, oh, Puerto Rico,
Oh
because
wow, yeah.
in their head, they cannot situate us geographically, but
Mm-hmm.
we are in Central America. You have the US and Mexico at the top. We are in the
Oh,
middle. That's why
okay.
we're called Centroamericanos. And then you have South America. But since the Central American countries, they are so small, and politically, they don't hear a lot about us. Well, it just lost in the conversations. So yes, we are one of these countries in Central America. Nice countries. We have the Caribbean side. That is the side where in the late 19th century, the country started to construct a railroad,
Mm-hmm.
and they needed labor force. And a lot of Caribbean people, especially Afro-Caribbean, came to work on the construction of the railroad and later on in the banana plantations. And a lot of those Caribbean, the large contingency were Jamaicans. So that's why and then they settled because they wanted to make a port in that area that I am from. It became the main port of the country because they needed to export the coffee. During that time, the coffee was the main product of the country, which they need to market. So the Caribbean people established themselves in that area of the country, which you would say, we don't use that term, but you would say that is the black side of the country.
Okay.
So the reason why I speak English is because the grandparents, because the most of them were coming from the English-speaking Caribbean, they maintain their language because they did not want to be part of Costa Rica. But of course, what happened is that the construction had some financial problem, so they had to send home some of the immigrants. But a lot of them, they offered them land so that they could stay. So the immigrants supposedly should stay like around 3 years, but the project lasted almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
So 20 years is the next generation.
Yeah.
So people, they start to reproduce, and hence people like me, right? So the most of us, especially during the period that I came to the world, the most of us are descendants of that Caribbean immigration. So we maintain the English because the grandparents would be very vexed with you if you speak Spanish in the house.
Oh,
But we are
wow.
Costa Rican, so we have to go to school in Spanish and stuff like that. And we have our friends and neighbors, but they preserve. So we still have, when you go to that part of the country, the people still speak in English, you know what, Creole English, right? With a lot of the Caribbean, the late 19th century Jamaican culture.
Oh, wow. So at home, growing up, you spoke English,
English and
but in
Spanish.
school, you spoke Spanish.
We had to.
That's
is the language of
amazing.
which,
Yeah,
yes.
that's nice. And where do you how do you go about doing most of your research? Is your book published?
Yes. Let me see. I think I have one. I've been very prolific lately. This is one I published last year.
Okay.
This one spoke about the next month in August.
Yeah.
This is our month, what we call el mes de la afrodescendencia, right? And then I realized, I say, oh, we're celebrating this thing, but most of the people don't know the history. I'm a historian, so I want to give our people the history. So Marcus Garvey was one of the immigrants who came in 1910 to Costa Rica before he formed the UNIA. And because of the presence of the Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, which you still have you have two branches still in Costa Rica. During the early 20th century, there were about 20 something branches of the Marcus Garvey. So we celebrate the 31st of August. It's a big celebration that we have in Costa Rica now for the last 20 years. And it was a result of Marcus Garvey. That is part of our history. So in this book, I give them the history, and it served for the teachers and stuff like that. So that they can.
Is the book in Spanish?
Yes, unfortunately, it is in Spanish because I am here.
Okay.
It has to be in Spanish. At some point, I will try to, when I get a little more money, I will, because I do this on my own.
Yeah.
I do the research and I get somebody to publish it for me. Then the next one, this one is published. This one published this year. This is the one with about the marriages because what I wanted, because you see in Costa Rica, they are very racist, but it is a very subtle racism. So I have to, I took it upon myself to start to tell different narratives about the Afro-Costa Rican, but the positive ones,
Oh,
because
that's nice. Yeah.
not the stereotypical
No.
ones.
Yeah.
So one of the things that people have is that the Black people did not marry. They did not get married. They only live in common law relationship. And that is true. You had a lot of common law, but you had a lot of them that got married.
Yeah.
So, and Caribbean people are very religious. So a lot of them want to make sure that they got married. So what I did, the way I do my research is that I go and I search a lot of the old newspapers.
Okay.
So this one is based on late 19th century newspapers, and they registered all of the requests and marriages. And what is rich about this is that you find the names of the ancestors and the place where they were coming from whichever part of the Caribbean. Uh, because what I forgot to tell you in the first part of the immigration is that the large contingent, yes, was Jamaicans, but they came from all over the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
So this demonstrated, we know that, but we never see something tangible. So this demonstrated because it have the name and it would say so and so from Barbados, working as a cook, and the parents. So it have a lot of information about the ancestors. So, but since I want, and it say, oh, this person is requesting to marry Carmen, also a Jamaican, parents, so and so. So it gives you a lot of information. So that is my latest publication. So now I am working on the 20th century marriages that took place of the ancestors.
Wow,
I know I
that's
talk. That is the problem with historians.
it's amazing, and I'm running out of time. It goes by
Yes,
quickly.
yes.
But your story is amazing, and my hope for anybody of our age looking on, I hope they don't get stuck in retirement and they realize that there is so much to do now. Now the self-reflection and the work for yourself and the fun starts. So thank you so much for your time. Um, can you say, if I give you a sentence, can you say it in Spanish? If
Absolutely.
can you
Tell
say in
me.
Spanish, be on the lookout for blessings,
Be on the lookout.
for blessings.
Okay, esté atento a las bendiciones. Estés atento a las bendiciones.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. This was short and sweet and very
Yes,
like packed with so much information. So all the best on your writings and your continued success with everything you do. And thank you for inspiring whoever's watching this. Have a good one. God bless.
thank you.
Thank you.
All the best. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.